The NBA is currently facing a huge tanking problem, and if they make one wrong decision, it could ruin the NBA as we know it. Tanking has been around for a very, very long time in the NBA, but it doesn't look like it used to nowadays. Back in the day, you had a very, very bad team and you would just lose games. Now, maybe you threw out bad rosters on purpose, right? That's kind of what the process Philadelphia Sixers did. But now it's not like that. We have teams that genuinely have a good roster, going out there and sitting their star players. They have a good roster that could compete for maybe a play-in spot, hell, maybe even a playoff spot, but they're resting their best players in the fourth and third quarter, sitting them out with injuries that don't exist. And it's making basketball unwatchable in February, March, and honestly for the rest of the season. For the rest of the year, there are certain teams that you just can't really watch. Nowadays, any late season game between two non-contenders is basically unwatchable. They are sitting their stars for like the last half of the game, and they're getting fined for it. Everyone's noticing. Unless you are a basketball sicko, I kind of am, you aren't watching these games. You aren't watching the Jazz versus the Pacers. You aren't watching the Kings versus the Pelicans. And it's horrible. It's horrible product. I feel horrible for people who bought season tickets, people who have dedicated time to these teams. Now, obviously, like I was saying, tanking has existed for a long time, and their original fix for this was flattening the lottery odds. But this didn't fix anything. Honestly, it kind of made it a little bit worse. I am a big fan of the Detroit Pistons, and I can tell you firsthand that my team was the worst in the NBA for a long time. And we did not get rewarded for it. I mean, we weren't trying to lose. I had to watch my favorite team lose, 28 games straight? Not on purpose. They were trying to win their hardest every single night. But they still lost 28 games straight. And what did we get rewarded with? I believe they got rewarded with the 5th overall pick. I mean, they were seriously one of the worst teams I've ever watched with my own two eyes, and I dedicated a lot of time to watching most of those 28 losses in a row. And they didn't even get the 1st overall pick, so basically, like, what? I mean, I could tell you firsthand that, even just tanking in general will not guarantee you something, but teams are still doing it. And realistically, I still can't blame them, right? I'm going on that 5-minute rant or something. I don't know how long it's going to be after I edit it. But I can't blame them, because if I had a great roster, like the Pacers will have next season, and I could potentially pair it with a top pick in one of the best NBA draft classes I've ever been around for, right? I would love to get a Cameron Boozer, a AJ DeBonza, right? But as somebody who just wants to watch good basketball, I hate it. Now, the NBA in general is catching on to the fact that these teams are tanking on purpose, and they're doing it in a way where you can kind of hide it, right? Resting those starters in the 4th quarter, 3rd quarter teams. They're kind of hiding it. And teams and the league are furious. So they put out a list of proposed fixes for this, and some of them are extremely stupid. I have all of the proposed fixes that we were given on my phone, and I'm going to read it off to you guys. One of the proposed fixes is lottery odds will be based on 2-year records instead of 1-year records, right? Okay, that is a direct shot at the Indiana Pacers currently, who I was saying, yes, they are tanking on purpose. They got fined for it, but it's not their fault that they aren't a playoff contender right now. Their star player got injured in the finals. So why should they be punished for that? This doesn't fix anything, in my opinion. This would just make tanking happen more. Their next proposed fix is no top 4 picks in consecutive years. Again, I don't understand this much because, yes, it would prevent maybe somebody from tanking 2 years in a row, but if a team sucks, why should they get punished, right? One player can't change an entire organization if they come in as a rookie and the team already sucks. The Kings would be the worst team in the NBA. They kind of are already, but like, I can't tell you how many years they had a top pick or should have had a top pick in a row. This would completely sabotage that team. One of the proposed fixes is the odds freeze after the All-Star break or the trade deadline. I don't know. This one, I guess, is good. I don't know. This doesn't really make any sense because I do think that a lot of teams get better after the trade deadline. You know, they make a trade to get better or get worse. So I don't like it that much. Maybe I'm missing something. One fix that they have is that post All-Star break wins improve draft position. And then the last two are even flatter lottery odds, which didn't work in the first place. And then expanding the lottery to include play-in teams, which I guess is good, but we might just have a Maverick situation all over again where they kind of didn't really deserve this pick at all and they got it somehow. I don't really like any of those fixes because that means that teams will just tank earlier if we freeze the odds. So if they just think that they can't compete, they'll be ruining games for even longer. It doesn't make any sense to me. If it's based on a 2-year record, they'll just tank over a wider period of time. You're not removing the incentive to tank here. You're just changing a little bit of how you have to tank, right? Tanking will always be in the NBA. This is not going to fix that. You're just going to reduce the amount that we can see the tanking. Tanking will still very clearly be here, even if you flatten the lottery odds, even if you pause the lottery odds at the deadline, right? Now, the only one that makes a little bit of sense to me when I'm thinking about it is the wins after the All-Star break kind of drives your lottery odds up a little bit because it would shut down late season tanking a little bit. But what could stop teams from tanking in November all the way through January, right? I don't think this really fixes much. Now that we went over all of those proposed fixes, I want to talk about something. I'm not a conspiracy guy at all. That's not what this channel is meant for. This channel is meant for me to get out my thoughts on the NBA and hopefully have some fun conversation with people who also are like-minded, right? But my conspiracy, which I'm not the first person to say this, there was a report that actually it is true, so I don't know if it's a conspiracy or it's just real. But this form of tanking has been around for multiple seasons. The fact that they are outraged about it this season is kind of crazy. And you can directly correlate that with gambling companies being angry. Everyone knows that the current biggest problem in the NBA is gambling. They're constantly shoving it down your throat. I'm a fan of the cut. Everyone knows that in the NBA, the biggest problem, at least to me, is gambling. They're constantly shoving it down your throat. I'm a fan of Detroit. I have to watch the FanDuel Sports Network. I constantly get odds popping up on my TV while I'm trying to watch basketball games. Even if you watch ESPN, there's ESPN Bet. Even if you watch Prime, there's still odds popping up. There's still the spread popping up. It's constantly shoved down your throat. Hell, I go to Pistons games a lot, and I sit in a decent section, and they took out seats to make a Bet Rivers courtside club. Like, they're just getting paid so much money from these gambling companies is basically what I'm trying to say. And if the gambling companies were coming up to them and saying, hey, this is ruining some of the bets, right? You can't really bet on some games because this team is clearly trying to lose. We're losing money on this. Blah, blah, blah. The NBA would be pretty upset if they're saying, hey, maybe we should stop giving you some money. Adam Silver would be like, hold up. Don't stop giving me money from gambling companies. I'll make a fix. That's my thought process on why this suddenly has become such a big deal to the league, because it's been an issue for quite a while. Ever since they flattened the lottery odds and teams figured out that you could do this, it's been happening. So do I have any proposed fixes that I think would be better than theirs? Not really, but I am not paid to be a head of basketball operations anywhere, so whatever. I'm just a huge fan of the NBA, and I can't watch this go on for much longer because, I mean, if I'm watching my favorite team go up against the Kings or the Utah Jazz or some team like that, it's kind of unwatchable. I'm just watching it to see my team do decent, and then I'm kind of shutting my brain off like second quarter. I know they're going to win. I mean, in general, I overall don't really think that you can fix this tanking issue. I do think that you can keep finding these teams that are actually just good. The Utah Jazz and Pacers being the two examples that I keep bringing up. Sorry for piling on if you're a fan of this team. But just keep finding these teams. I mean, if you just keep finding them $500K, $1 million, they will stop and they will try to win games. They'll probably still load manage, but that's all we can do for now. I'm not the first one to make this video. I honestly am kind of late to the party because I wanted to see if they came out with more proposed fixes or anything like that, and we haven't really gotten much after that initial report. Other than this, the NBA is in a great spot right now. My next video will 100% be the NBA playoff preview right now, because I think this year's playoffs will be one of the best ever. And I know that's a big thing to say, but I believe it. So I hope you enjoyed this rant. I hope you liked this video and all that stuff. I'm Midi NBA. Like, comment, subscribe so I can keep making these videos for you guys. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks for watching. Peace.